What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. I go by Lord Ethan. I'm an Overwatch Collegiate Varsity coach of 6 years, and today we're going to be taking a look at some Juno gameplay. Now, this is Gold 2, so it's right on the cusp between Gold and Platinum. They mentioned that their stats seem pretty good in their games, but clearly they could be doing a little more for their team, or else they wouldn't be losing half of their games, right? And therefore be kind of stuck here. They're mentioned as well 3 things that they're considering in an effort to improve and rank up, which is positioning, ring placement, and pulsars, particularly to help compensate for like reloading downtime. And they do mention as well that Blizzard World is like one of their worst maps. It's a huge struggle, so hopefully we can get some nice pointers, and it's really good that you have some ideas of how you want to rank up as well. Some of the aspects that you can focus on that are part of this character that you can use to kind of bend and manipulate the rules of Overwatch. Really good one to start off with is the speed ring here. But I do want to mention speed ring is really helpful for getting teammates to and through spaces that they want to control or don't need to control. And one of those really good examples of a position that you don't really need to control as a team is the choke point. I mean, you do want to regulate it if you're the defenders here. They've kept us kind of stuffed in this position, and a ring would be really helpful here. So using it right as spawn, prevents us from having it accessibly here, even though it doesn't seem like our team is going to be pushing in here. It's worth mentioning that the choke is like one of the worst places in Overwatch ever to play, and so you really don't want to spend too much time in here. It's really important to go in and push through a bad position to get to a good one. So you want to be doing your cooldowns to help do that, and you want to be applying pressure to your enemies as well. Part of the reason that I mentioned pressure here is because what we've seen from your Juno is a lot of healing, like a ton of healing. In fact, I think like a lot more healing comparatively than damage here. And it's worth mentioning that if you're shooting someone, they are going to back up, right? So an easy way to clear up a little bit of space in this choke point, which we don't want to spend too much time in, is to make sure that we're damaging our opponents. And that way, they either our allies are not taking as much damage, or if our allies have only taken a little bit of damage, such that we don't need to heal them to full HP because they're basically already there, then that's an opportunity to do damage. I want to mention the ring here. Again, it's not so much the placement, but rather the timing that is kind of cooking us. I would, really love to have that for whenever we want a 3-2-1 push through the choke. And honestly, at the end of the day, if your teammates aren't going to push through the choke, it's really worth considering just doing it yourself, right? If I see my if I see my Lucio or my Juno run into the enemy team's backlines as an Overwatch player, I'm not just going to sit and watch you feed. I'm going to try to go in, right? Oh, my Juno is in, right? I have to be there too. It's really unfortunate as well because not moving through this choke is what makes it really easy to hold us here, right? Their queen has a really easy ult. We have a Ray here as well. I want to mention it's so worth Raying here. The policy is if you have it, you should use it. And part of the reason you want to use the Ray here is because it will help you literally move forward, right? And that's really, really important to note. Map control is one of the 2 key principles of Overwatch. It's 2 core principles, which is timing and map control. But map control is a really important element because it helps make timings more clear. It helps make your targets more clear, helps make it more obvious who you should be shooting and where your cooldown should be focused, right? And so it's really worth considering that when you're playing Juno, you're not necessarily playing her for her ability to heal, right? As well as do damage, as well as speed teammates in. This is worth a Ray here, by the way. Like, absolutely worth Raying that because you're down a man, you're down a man, your soldier wants to visor, you guys still have ults, it does healing, damage amplification. Like, there's like a bajillion reasons to literally, again, ult when you have it so that you can start building the next one. Going back to map control, it's really important to play for that map control, and that's something that you have as Juno, is the ability to get up to the high ground, double jump up there, glide boost, shimmy up the high ground, speed ring in, out. I do really like the fact that we get away with a C9 here. I don't know that we should be getting away with C9 every time we play Blizzard World, right? Instead, I would much prefer a more kind of elaborate staged approach where we're taking high ground and, holy pathing. We'll get back to this. Where we are staging high ground and then pushing them back out of their angles, where we're not spending the entire team fight's worth of time in the choke, but rather pushing past it instantly and then ulting whenever we can't get past it so that we can especially move towards the objective which we want to control. It was funny to see you C9 and then Sorry, it was funny to see you C9 and then route around. I think that is really interesting that you're willing to use like 80% of the map, right? I haven't seen you traverse up that high ground through those dark corners like up until that point, right? So it's interesting that this expression that I have used 80% of the map, not 20% of the map. It's interesting how we're seeing that not in team fights, which is literally like before and during is where we need to see using 80% of the map. We're spending a lot of time, and we can go back and look, or you can go back and look, but we're spending a lot of time out in the open. We're not near walls, corners, covers. I like this jump on the height, and if Overwatch 2 boils down to two core principles, timing and map control, then it's a really nice timing to be up there at the time that your Sombra is there to push that with you. We end up dropping off of the height and onto the low ground behind our tanks where we don't have damage angles onto their team because our team is full HP. What are we healing? Like, what damage are we actually healing? They have a Ray down, by the way, so we have actually chosen like the last possible second to go for our Ray, and I don't know how long their Queen has had ult, but again, it's really important to just ult when you have it. We really should have ulted before we captured first point, and honestly, if we had, we probably would have had another Ray by now, right? If you can avoid if you can avoid dying, especially if you're using the ult, like, it's so worth it, right? And again, your team is looking to also get active, and also if you rip the Ray just a little bit earlier, maybe opens up some more advantages for your team. Be careful about jumping. Be really careful about the jumping. I think that all we have seen you do this map so far is just hammer down. It's like you got one of those little like auto button pressors. Anyone ever play on the Nintendo DS where you had to click A bajillion times a minute to finish the Mario minigame? And I feel like that's what we've done to our jump button here. And you really only want to jump for a very specific reason. I'm gonna go back to, again, healing. We're only healing. And this is really important for me on Juno, is Juno helps make the principle of simultaneity accessible, right? So Juno, who can do so many things all at once, can damage, can heal, can fly, can go in, can kite, can get the team in, move through a choke, get to high ground, and she can do all of these things all at once, right? And we're also only seeing you do one thing at a time. It's only ever speeding someone out spawn, it's only ever healing my full HP tank, it's only ever playing behind them on the same angle. We can talk about that as well. We unfortunately won't have the opportunity to. And so I really want to see you break the mold a little bit and go use 80% of the map, go engage yourself in simultaneity. I haven't seen a right-clicky that's this big. In fact, I think that is the first right-clicky that I have actually, that has like the Lord Thethan endorsement. I think all the other ones that we've seen so far have not been great. And again, going back to pressure and damage and the relationship between the two, this is a quote from Hottie, the Overwatch League tank player and coach, or Overwatch, professional Overwatch level tank player and coach. He says more damage or more pressure equals less damage. So if I want to ask you a question. If you get mugged in a dark alley, I'm sorry to get so morbid, guys. If you get mugged in a dark alley, you and your friend, and someone pulls out a pistol and holds it to your friend's temple and says, you know, hey, give me all you got, or your friend gets it, right? What are you gonna do? Are you going to sit there and try to pump syringes into them as they get shot in the head and bleed out in front of you? Or are you going to whip out the sidearm, the hidden sidearm that you have in your sleeve, like Django Unchanged dentist style, and just shoot the guy who's holding your friend a gun pet? Which one are you going to do? So it should be clear. Shoot your threats. Shoot your threats. Shoot your enemy's threat. Or, sorry, don't shoot your enemy's threats. Actually, I guess shoot your enemy's threats, because then you would be healing your allies. But shoot your allies' threats, right? Shoot the Moira who's sucking the life out of your soldier, so that you force her to fade out, right? We want to make sure that we are healing our teammates. But if healing our teammates isn't winning fights, then we have to wonder what we're going to have to do to win fights. And don't worry, I don't think it has to be that complicated. It could just be doing more damage. If we look at the board here, it's actually quite the disparity how much more damage we have than how much more healing we have than damage. Now, I'm actually pretty pleased with the ratio. Or rather, that's more damage than I thought it would be, but that's also less damage than it should be, right? We have better right-click opportunities, right? Going for one here is actually really big because we can hold it an extra long time and let some of them walk through the choke. If simultaneity is one of Juno's core principles, or the principle in Overwatch that Juno makes accessible to us, then we should be really looking to use that speed ring, not so that we we can get back from a bad position, but so that our Domina can move back and forward as she needs to ebb and flow around her barrier for the fight. We should be seeing right clickies that do damage as well as healing. Right clickies that if they're only going to do healing, they have to do healing onto a huge swath of your teammates, and if they're only going to do damage, then I hope it's a greedy one. Worth it to mention as well that I don't know that we see too much pairing of your cooldowns with the glide boost and the right clickies to get the angles to do healing and damage, and we're also not playing around a lot of cover, which makes it really hard to search for those angles. Closer to walls, corners, covers is what you'll hear me say in every other VOD review, and we haven't seen nearly as much of that, as much as we have seen like a lot of kind of like jumping, ambling around out in the open. We also play probably a little too KDA for me, and I also want to mention, you know, grabbing the Mega is totally fine, is perfectly smart, but then after that, we don't sit there for a second to let our speed ring regen. We are instantly out, right? And that's really curious to me. It means that there's no particular aim in that moment besides live at all costs. And that's not necessarily how you win the game. The objective is the means by which the game is won and lost, and the fact that you have ended up as a stagger wave on your team is really troublesome. You have to use the glide boots here, and you get dove by the Winston. I don't know if I've had the chance to say it yet, but it is always better in than out. So even the couple of steps, even the little bit of gliding that you do backwards is more than enough to put you out of line of sight from your team, and actually, you should have been walking to high ground from the first place, and just starting there so that when the Winston dives you, you can just glide past him. Not backwards, not further into his line of sight and further away from your team, but into your team, where the pylon is set up, over the Winston's head so that he has to wind his mouse around, right? Here you are doing a little bit of damage, but then we drop off the high ground, like arbitrarily. I understand that we don't want to get picked too early, but Moira's not going to pick you from that range. And it's also really interesting. Every time that you've done damage this match has been a yes, I like that moment from Lord Theithen. You get the old Lord Theithen, Lord the endorsement right there. And so I want to see more of that. Your mechanics are actually pretty good, too. I think that you could probably pick up Ana, Baptiste, Yari as well. You probably already play those heroes. Raid this, by the way. Oh, if you haven't, use it. You played this here. And gliding out into the open backwards instead of in. I understand this in a room against a primal, but we have the Ray. Our whole team is there. We need to heal our horse. We need to apply damage to the Winston so that he's less compelled to stay in our face the whole time. We're gliding inside on the low ground instead of on the high ground, which like I could talk about for like at least an hour, but won't have the opportunity to, about just the benefits of high ground. And then again, going back to the jumping, way too much of it. Way too much of the space key or jump key, whether it's the B button or the one you put in between words when you write a text. Too much jumping. I would say that a couple of pointers for you is going to be moving through choke points. And again, if your team's not going to do it, you should. And if that means moving, or that doesn't have to mean moving through main. That can be moving left, going right. I mentioned map control and didn't have the opportunity to mention health packs and how those are literally map control. If you have a health pack that you can play for, that you can go and use, that's map, that you control angles that you can manipulate, right? So really finding angles and taking map control, moving through chokes, stop jumping, use your abilities for all of the different things that your abilities are good for. The healing, the damage, the going in, the going out, the speed for you, the speed for allies, certain positions that you can, you can put the ring close, you can put it really far, you can put it up in the air for your Winston to jump through like he's an ape of the circus, right? And so, but we see a lot of these samey uses of the cooldown. Speed myself out of spawn, speed my team forward, right? Around a corner that they didn't need speed to walk around, right? Into a team that's literally right there. A lot of out in the openness, not close to our walls, corners, and covers, and not taking high ground, and most importantly, not doing damage. Actually, most importantly, it's always better in than out. But I think that your damage will also be easier to more consistently, reliably land if we cut the jumping out a little bit, because honestly, you rolled the soldier with your Sombra, you rolled the Moira when she was in Coalescence, you had some really nice, you had one really good right-clicking on the attacking phase. I remember it where you had like 4 of them highlighted. It was awesome. You were far out of their line of sight, you were away from their effective ranges, and you had like 4 of them tethered, and a bunch of your allies too. It was simultaneous. It was glorious. It was wonderful, and I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to take a look at this Juno gameplay. I actually had recorded a VOD review of this one already, and it was mid, so I'm glad that I also had the opportunity to jump into the booth and take one more look at this one, and have the opportunity to really deliver some of these lines a little more effectively, a little more pertinently. If you guys guys enjoyed the content as well, then be sure to like the channel and subscribe. The earliest supports that you can give are going to be the ones that are most meaningful: the comments, the engagement, the sharing with friends, those who also play Overwatch, or honestly, I have players that show these recordings to their families, and I've got a couple of moms out there that really love this broadcasting voice here, and so it really means a lot to me, guys. For our Juno hero, Nynnji, I never mentioned the name, by the way, but for our Juno hero, Nynnji, a huge thank you goes out to them for supplying this replay code, and hopefully some of this was insightful. We can't go too long on these recordings just because I have such a limited time, and even for much as I would love to jump into these maps for like 2 hours and break down all of these details, that's really just something that that's just something I can't do unless I've got huge audience and thousands of viewers. We'll get there at some point, just not quite yet. Early support is going to be, again, some of the ones that are some of the most meaningful. So I appreciate you guys for watching, as always. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Be good to each other. Be fair to yourselves, and I will see you guys next time.